Every time I talk about the interior of the C5 Corvette, there's always somebody in the comments that rushes to defend it. And don't get me wrong, guys, I love my C5, but this interior certainly has its flaws. The interior of this car leaves a lot to be desired, so in this video, I'm gonna dig into it and show you guys exactly why the C5 Corvette's interior is not the best, so stay tuned. We're wasting no time with this video, so the first thing that annoys me about the C5 Corvette's interior is that these little plastic covers fall off all the time. As you guys can see, after so many heat cycles, these little tabs get brittle and break off over time, and that's what exposes these holes here. Longtime C5 owners know that you have to buy these things pretty consistently, and they just pop in just like that. Super easy to replace, but it's kind of a hassle. This is not a great design. Next is the fact that, let's face it guys, this car has a truck steering wheel. Normally, the top-of-the-line sports car from any company is going to have a more aggressive and track-oriented steering wheel in the cockpit, but this one just does not. Chevy basically just recycled the Tahoe steering wheel, adjusted the shape slightly, and tossed it in here and said, good enough. And I don't hate the steering wheel, but it certainly could be a little bit sportier. This is probably the reason why a lot of people these days are replacing these with aftermarket units. Now, adding on to the door plastics, I should probably mention that these reflectors are also known for popping off. And this reflector problem isn't just with the C5s. The Silverados and Tahoes also have this problem. It seems like in the 90s, Chevy could figure out how to make a bulletproof powerhouse of an engine, but could not figure out how to get these reflectors to stay on the doors. Again, it's a small gripe, but it still needs to be addressed. Next is the seats. A lot of people hate how these seats feel, but I actually don't mind them. My biggest problem is actually two separate problems. The first is that these seats work their way loose over time on the tracks, so you start to get this kind of back and forth play here. This is extremely common in the C5, and there are repair kits out there that you can add a bushing to the rails, and this helps to keep the seat rigid. The next issue is how all the seats rip in this same spot, because when people try to get in the car, their first instinct is to put their hand here to support their weight while they're sitting down. Well, what a lot of people don't know is that there's actually an inside part of the frame here that's metal, and it gives support to your bolsters. But because it's sharp, it punctures the seat material here, leaving this big rip. I see this same rip on so many C5s out there because it's so common for owners to try and get in the car this way. And of course, guys, it would not be a C5 interior video without me mentioning the cup holder. Yes, this thing is super shallow and super useless. I think we all know that at this point. The next one is the target top squeak. This can pretty much happen with any target top out there, so I'm not going to harp on it too much. But yes, this thing can be a bit noisy if you don't know how to maintain it. Making sure that all of your adjustment screws are properly adjusted can save you a ton of headache, and also making sure that all of your weather stripping is in good condition. Before moving on, I wanted to let you guys know that if you're finding this video helpful, make sure to help me out as well and subscribe to Mile High Misfits, because that is the best way to support the channel. But without further ado, let's get back into it. One thing that I fixed in a previous video is the ashtray door flop. There's a spring back here that if it gets loose, it makes this door rattle around like crazy, and it's super annoying. This is a really easy fix if you just use some foam to basically get the spring to stay in place, or you can replace the entire unit. Again, really easy fix, but it shouldn't have been an issue to begin with. This is just overall a bad design in my opinion. My next complaint is the delamination on the interior wrapping. This is super common on all C5s, especially on the door cards here. Right here is where your passenger is going to rest their arm, and so this sees a lot of action. This is going to bubble up, and it just looks awful. The easiest way to fix this is to get your door rewrapped, and this can also happen on other areas, including the dashboard. This is most likely because of just cheap adhesives used on the interior. Now is electrical problems. I could probably make an entire video going over all the electrical problems that these cars have, but I'm just going to go over the main ones. These include things like the heads-up display going out, the power seat motors failing, gauge cluster problems, the climate control lights going out, and the blend door actuators. Now, the last thing that I'll mention that's not really a problem, it's just kind of weird, is the center console. To me, they almost designed this in a way that they forgot that the e-brake was going to be in the way when it's engaged. It's like when they put this thing together, they tried to open this and it wouldn't go all the way, so they just put this weird rotating hinge on it to make it work. I mean, it works, so it's not a terrible design, I guess. It just feels like an afterthought where the engineers were like, oh shit, I totally forgot to clearance for that, and then they just found a random hinge on McMaster-Carr, slapped it in there, and called it a day. And truthfully, there's a lot of other reasons why people might dislike this interior, but these are the big ones. Chevy's interiors during this time were simple, but they work. They're all made of the cheapest and thinnest plastics possible. Their trucks follow the exact same formula in this era, but they get the job done. But that's about all they do, which is fine, and if you know the history of these cars, the budget was very limited, so for what they had to work with, this interior is fine. The engineers at GM did a pretty decent job with this design with the budget that they had. But being completely objective and comparing this interior compared to other cars of this time period, it's not good. You can come back with all the excuses in the world or tell me that you've never had any of these problems, so they must not exist, but at the end of the day, all of these problems plague a lot of C5s all around the world. And again, I love my C5 Corvette, but I'm not going to pretend that this car is perfect. Some of you might say, well, name some cars from this time period with better interiors then. Okay. The BMW Z3, the Honda S2000, even though it has a very minimalist design, the Porsche Boxster, the Audi TT, the Lexus SE400, the Mercedes SLK 320. I could go on, but you guys get the picture. And let me be clear, I'm not saying that any of these cars are better than the C5, just that their interiors are better. But there you have it, guys. Those are the biggest reasons why the C5 Corvette's interior is not the greatest in the world and why a lot of people claim that they hate it. But let me know in the comments if there's any items that I missed. But that's all for this week, guys. If you enjoyed the content for today, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for future content. I'll catch you guys next week. Later.